Hello and welcome to the show. We've got a great show for you tonight. I'm here to talk about the news and wear pants, and I hate wearing pants. Welcome to another stupid week. Israel got its first 7-Eleven this week, and oh, thank heaven, because everything else wasn't so great. But it could be worse. The U.S. seems to be fighting over whether gas stoves are white supremacy or something. And I can't even figure that out. Anyway, it's the second week of the Netanyahu government, and for once, I don't think anyone in the coalition made a homophobic comment because they were too busy planning an extreme overhaul of the judicial system in Israel that would fundamentally alter the balance of power in the government and threaten its democratic character. At least it's new. That's a change. What could possibly go wrong? Saturday night saw 80,000 people protesting the move that would put minority rights at risk, but the government still seems adamant about going ahead with, and Netanyahu is claiming that in spite of the thousands that protest, what he's really concerned is the millions of people who went to the polls to support the measure during the election. You have to admit that it's a bit suspicious that in a government with like criminals as ministers and a prime minister who is actively undergoing a trial, that they want to overhaul the judicial system. I'm just saying that it's not a way to build a lot of trust. The rhetoric around these changes is heating up among lawmakers, with last week, opposition lawmaker Benny Gantz accused Netanyahu of leading the country towards civil war, and opposition leader Yair Lapid urging his party and supporters to take to the streets as part of a war over our home. And in a totally normal thing that happens in our democracy where there is nothing to worry about and we can definitely change the judiciary system, a member of the Jewish Power Party in an interview called for these lawmakers to be locked up and tried for treason.
את הארבעה האלה צריך לעצור עכשיו. הם האנשים המסוכנים ביותר שיש כרגע. לא הפגנה, לא דגלים, לא שום דבר אחר.
את יאיר לפיד ובני גנץ ויאיר גולן ובוגי יעלון צריך לעצור עכשיו? אלה הדברים שאמרת עכשיו?
מבחינתי זאת בגידה במולדת אם לא הייתי מספיק ברור. כן, זאת עילה למעצר.
In response, the Jewish Party power leader and person whose name I'm really tired of saying, Itamar Ben-Gvir, denounced the statements from the lawmaker, saying that they were unacceptable and not what happens in a democracy. And this is what's concerning me, because this means that he's the sane one in that party. Just let that sink in for a minute. Elsewhere in the government, everyone's favorite Secretary of Transportation and woman who looks like she harasses cashiers at grocery stores, Miri Regev, tweeted that she'd be taking steps to reduce traffic on certain highways by removing traffic cops that enforce traffic laws during rush hour. She tweeted this week that visible enforcement of traffic rules on major highways in central Israel were causing curious Israeli drivers to slow down, causing traffic jams. Therefore, enforcement of traffic laws would be curtailed during major commuting hours. Yes, because anyone who knows Israel knows that that's what this country needs. Less enforcement of traffic laws. You are killing it between last week's rebranding and deciding whether you're going to keep public transportation lanes at all. This country is going to be so screwed. And now moving on to less hilarious government news. The cabinet on Sunday approved the handing over of authority over external programming in the public education system to MK Avi Maoz, someone who is considered to be the most extreme lawmaker in the current parliament and thinks that members of the LGBTQ community aren't normal. I don't even think I need to make a joke here. Look at this guy. Does he look like someone you want to be watching your kids? He looks like a Death Eater. He looks like he should be sneaking into Hogwarts to kill Harry Potter. The Prime Minister's office said in a statement that approval of the measure was given in accordance with the in accordance with the coalition agreement, where they will be run by Maoz. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has insisted over and over and again throughout the campaign and since his government took office that he will not allow harm to come to the LGBTQ community in Israel, which would be way more convincing if he didn't have to repeat it over and over again every single time he gained a homophobic whack job power in his government. I'm just saying there are ways to make people feel better about it, and just repeating it all the time isn't one of them. And in totally normal things that happen on college campuses news, University of Michigan students were marching around their campus chanting for the annihilation of the Jewish people, the end of the Jewish state, and the murder of civilians with terrorist attacks.
Is our demand of peace on stolen land. Intifada, long live it, Intifada. Intifada, Intifada, long live it, Intifada.
Wow, that looks so familiar. Where have I seen that before?
Jews will not replace us! Jews will not replace us!
Oh yeah. For those of you who aren't aware, while many will say that Intifada is just an Arabic word for rising up, in the context of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, it's the name for two waves of terrorism that cost many, many Israeli lives in suicide bombings. And by the way, Palestinians lost their lives in this too. What strikes me the most about this video is how spoiled it is. A bunch of college campus students chanting for a violent uprising against Israel from the safety of their dorm rooms in Michigan. What are they going to be like? Ooh, sorry, I'd love to rise up against the Israeli occupation, but I have my theater elective this weekend and I really, really need to study. Maybe next time? Jews are seeing an extreme rise in anti-Semitism on college campuses and just in general in the United States. I will repeat this again. Being for Palestinian rights is not anti-Semitic, but if your characterization of those rights is to kill civilians and murder Jews, that's the definition of anti-Semitism. You can't be like pro-killing people, but be like, no, I'm anti-murder. I just support killing people. And I will be perfectly willing to admit that our government and our leadership is not taking any steps to make this problem better and to solve it and make people's lives better. But I just don't think the solution is calling for genocide. But maybe that's just a personal thing. I have absolutely no idea what goes on in college campuses anymore. Thank God I graduated college in 2009 when everything was still crazy, but like a normal level of crazy, and you couldn't post it on Instagram. God, I'm old. I'm also just going to call out these students again for encouraging Palestinians to throw themselves at what they consider to be the Israeli army death machine, again, from the safety of their college dorm room. Anyway, that's our show. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a like down there. And if you want to see more of this, don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next week. Take care.